Hey, how you doing, folks? It's DecepySwag, and today we're going to be talking about the Fatal Fury roster and who the final 4 characters could be to round out the base roster of 17 characters. But before we get into that speculation and whatnot, you already know what to do. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and please don't forget to tap the bell icon. Alright, let's get to work. Like I mentioned earlier, at the time of this video, there's only 4 spots remaining in the base roster for Fatal Fury Seed of the Wolves, and in total the game will have 22 characters, including the 5 DLC Season 1 characters. But I'm thinking of doing a separate video for speculating the Season 1 DLC. For now though, we're here to discuss just who are the final 4 that completes the base roster for the newest entry in the series. First and foremost, to make things easier on ourselves, I think we should just go ahead and pinpoint the obvious characters, seeing as how for the most part, 2 out of the 4 have more or less been confirmed already, the 2 being Hokutomaru and Kain. Now if you're confused about my logic with that, let's take a look back to the first real gameplay teaser we ever got for Fatal Fury Seed of the Wolves. Rewind the clock back to 2 years, August 5th, 2023. We got a 1-minute teaser trailer for the game, our first look at in-game models of Terry and Rock. But just as important, in the beginning of that teaser, we see the top-down view of the map of Southtown and heard all these character voices. Up to now, everyone we heard have been included in the game, but just as a refresher for folks, since it has been damn near 2 years, I'll play the trailer for you all.
レイジングストーン知らぬい究極奥義
知らぬユニコファイナル訓練
ビンゴファイヤーほう昇降
創造性
点ビーフォーヒブリゼーレパワーゲイタ GAROU Decept City of the Ribbon.
Alright, so first let's talk about who we don't hear that made it to the roster. Vox, Preacher, and Dongguan. They weren't featured in this at all and yet were added to the roster. This is extremely important because I always try to make it a point to tell folks that just because we heard them in the trailer doesn't mean that SNK would be going in order of those voices. Clearly saw that with Dongguan. As for who was featured and we heard, we got Rock Howard, Mai Shiranui, Bijane, Kevin Ryan, Billy Kane, Marco Rodriguez, Gato, T-Zoc, and Terry Bogard. But the 2 we heard but haven't seen are of course Hokutomaru and Kain R. Highland. Again, they're pretty much confirmed. Of course, this doesn't mean 100% they gotta be base roster, but just makes sense to me for them being base roster. Obviously Kain being the villain, and with them bringing most of the original cast back, it would make sense to have Hokutomaru. And also, Hokutomaru would be filling the role of a ninja, more specifically Andy's role. Which, by the way, in regards to Andy and Joe, they're going to be DLC. I don't see SNK making them base roster. I feel like that would take away the spotlight of Preacher and Hokutomaru, who are their students, but we'll get them eventually. And yes, I understand they were featured on the announcement poster with Terry way back when, but that doesn't mean necessarily SNK will follow that. I just can't rationalize SNK throwing in Joe and Andy. It's like having a new upstart in a story and then you just bury them with the old characters. So we got the obvious 2 picks out of the way with Kain and Hokutomaru. Now comes the hard part. Who could be the last 2 spots? The real question is, who is the final 2 characters that could be filling out the last 2 spots that I mentioned? Now for everyone watching, I'm going to be honest with you. The reason I never really made a roster prediction video was because personally, I just like the idea of being surprised at events and trailers and not wanting to try and guess. And 2, sometimes your boy just don't know. And now here we are with 4 spots left, 2 of which we're pretty sure who they are, soft confirmed, but the tough part is the other two spots. Again, I'll be honest, I truly don't have a definitive answer, so instead of saying it's who I think it'll be, let's have fun and just discuss the possibilities of who could join the roster. And first up, I'm going to suggest a character that hasn't been seen in a very long time, at least not till recently, and that's Tsugumi Tendo. For those that don't know, Tsugumi Tendo was a part of Fatal Fury Wild Ambition, released on the Hyper Neo Geo 64 in January 28, 1999, and ported to PlayStation June 24, 1999. She's a female high school wrestler and was an original character introduced in the game. This pick would be interesting considering she hasn't been playable in a Fatal Fury game in nearly 20 years. Plus, her fighting style would be a much welcome addition to the cast. The best way to compare her would be like Asuka from Tekken with wrestling moves. If they wanted to, they could write her in the story as being a huge fan of T-Zoc and being a wrestling fanatic. Boom, there you go, her motive. Also, when I mentioned we haven't seen her in a long time until recently, I'm referencing one of the art pieces in Mai's arcade in Street Fighter 6. We see Mai and Andy getting married and a bunch of Street Fighter and Fatal Fury female characters there in attendance. And who do we see in the background? Seems like Tsugumi to me, but that's just my speculation. Let's move on to the next possibility. If there's anything I've learned over the years of playing fighting games, is that people love boxers. Just look at characters like Steve Fox from Tekken, Balrog from Street Fighter series, his protege Ed from Street Fighter 5 and 6, TJ Combo from the Killer Instinct series, and even within the King of Fighters series, you have Heavy D of Team American Sports introduced back in King of Fighters 94, Nelson introduced in KO 14 from Team South America, and of course the lovely Vanessa, the first female boxer of the series, introduced back in the King of Fighters 1999 and became playable in KOF 2000. But in the Fatal Fury verse, there is a known boxer dubbed White Wolf of the Ring, and that boxer is Rick Stroud, the Native American boxer. Last time Rick was playable was his introduction in Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, The Newcomers, back in 1998. Braided white hair with the side shaved down, blue tat designs on his body while wearing white pants and black shoes with blue gloves. Rick's design is so simple yet genius at the same time. His culture on full display, but it not being made his personality. Which, speaking of personality-wise, Rick isn't some super polite fancy dude. He's known to have a bit of a rowdy personality, but does follow a code of honor and a warrior's heart. The best way to compare him is like that of a Saiyan, searching for strong, worthy opponents and excited from the intense battle. At the moment, we don't have a boxer on the roster, so I can see this being a nice addition, and plus, who doesn't like a good boxing character? Next up on the list of possibilities is something that I will admit I have been very vocal about. See, back in 2024, we got Billy's trailer, we all saw the stage in the streets at night. But if you notice in the background on the wall, it's a graffiti of a biplane. To some folks that might seem random or whatever, but for those that know, you know that it's specific to Alfred Earhart. For the uninformed, Alfred is a pilot of a biplane and was introduced in Fatal Fury 2, The Newcomers, like Rick. But in Alfred's case, he was a hidden boss. Not to mention he's also an exclusive character in PlayStation port of Real Bout Special, where he's the main protag of the story mode. He makes some cameos here and there, but for the most part, he hasn't been playable in more than a decade either. Now with Alfred, he could fill the role of a speedy character. His moves consist of dashing around and having slashing-like attacks, another fighting style that isn't present at the moment in the roster. Besides his attacks, his design overall is just very cool, and I would love to see him animated in the new City of Wolf style. Definitely feel like this character would appeal to an audience out there. Maybe not a huge audience, but definitely make folks happy. To round out the characters that could possibly appear is one folks are somewhat familiar with, and that being Alice. For many folks, their first introduction to Alice was through the King of Fighters 14. However, she originally comes from a Fatal Fury pachinko game. If you remember an old video of mine about not wanting to add KOF characters to Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, you'll know how adamant I was about that. But in this case, she's technically not a KOF character. Alice is a hardcore fangirl of Terry, Andy, and Joe, with her moves mimicking them in some way, shape, or form, not to mention her overall design and clothing choice. Her personality is kinda ditzy but lovable, and being a record character, I can see a lot of folks getting used to her as she isn't difficult to play. Plus, she could end up being a fan favorite, maybe like a Sakura for the game. I could go on and on, Hanfu, Yamazaki, you get the idea. Maybe even characters from the cancelled GAROU 2 character list we saw years ago. Again, plenty of picks that could make it, but I just wanted to share this with y'all and brainstorm. But as always, we reached that part of the video where I ask you all a simple question. What are your thoughts? Who do you think will fill the final spots? Do you think it'll be anyone I named in this video? And if not, tell me who do you think it will be? Maybe I missed someone. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Till next time, I'm DecepySwag. Later.